असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Om. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the Vedanta Society of Toronto's Sunday service, online only, and I extend my very good morning to you all. Today's talk is on Sri Ramakrishna, the epitome of Advaita. Sri Ramakrishna is, in fact, he is having all sorts of divine bhavas. He is not confined only to Advaita. If you read Gospel, there is so much about devotion that the goal of life is to realize God, and for the Kali Yuga it is Naradiya Bhakti. He says that clearly. But why you choose Sri Ramakrishna as the finest example and highest attainment of Advaita? All his teaching of Gospel, of Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, all emerge from his experience of Advaita, from oneness of reality, from his understanding and identification of the self with the Brahman. Having realized that, Sri Ramakrishna now speaks about all different methods of practice of spirituality, enjoying God in various ways, as he says. Beautifully he says, God is like a cake made of sweet. You may eat it from any end, from any side. It will taste sweet nonetheless. It will be sweet. So is God. You worship it through any means, in any attitude, it will be same sweet, same interesting. It will be, that is what Sri Ramakrishna's attitude of God. And he said, I want to enjoy God by all means of spiritual practices. Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, God as a devotee, God as seeing God as full, whole, and oneself as the part, God as my own true self. So self-identification with Brahman, all these different attitude and relationship with God gives joy. Among that God and myself, also the different attitude of the Bhakti Shastras, that God is the master, see, God is the mother and I am her child. God is the master and I am God's servant. I am God's friend. I am God's sweetheart. Like that thing, God is my sweetheart. I am a friend of God. Like that, all the attitudes of a devotee to God. And Sri Ramakrishna practiced in his life all different attitudes. Attitude of Hanumana, attitude of Radha, and experienced God through all means. They say that our Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Sri Krishna, saw love of God in Radha and Gopis. It was so intense, it was so joyful, it was so consuming that God himself thought, I am God, but I am not enjoying the love of a devotee. Then he incarnated himself to enjoy love of Krishna that Radha had enjoyed. And he became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the devotee of Krishna. The Krishna himself becomes the devotee of Krishna. God incarnates as a devotee of Krishna himself in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to enjoy how Radha loved Sri Krishna. To that, and he showed that there is greatest joy in worshipping God as a friend, as a sweetheart, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived that life. And what we see in Sri Ramakrishna enjoys God not only as sweetheart, not only as Madhura Bhava, but through all the bhavas, Dasya Bhava, Sakhya Bhava, Vatsalya Bhava, all that he practices, God becomes Ram Lala for him. And God is also like that. God becomes everything. God reveals to him in the form of baby Rama, and he plays with baby Rama. He takes him to bathe in the Ganga. He brings him and he feeds him like he is the mother, God is the son. First the God becomes divine mother, and he is the child of God, cries mother, mother, sees mother, mother is revealed everywhere, sees mother in all objects, all animals, all different human beings, good and bad, pure and impure, holy and unholy, all human beings seem to be filled with the divine, with the mother. There was nothing but mother. What an experience Sri Ramakrishna had. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to have that one experience. Here God comes after more than 500 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and tries to experience and enjoy God in all the varieties. And finally, after all this Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhura, all that after enjoying, now says, he doesn't plan, totally surrenders to the Divine Mother. And mother now starts guiding this person. Wonderful child of the Divine Mother, the Supreme Being, born and playing the role of a child of a Divine Mother. When Divine Mother takes the care of the child, and such a wonderful, great intellect and infinitely large heart has been provided to Sri Ramakrishna. The immaculate purity and the determination, the firmness, and the Divine Mother starts making that into a wonderful instrument for the whole humankind to produce. Religion is real, spirituality is experienceable, God can be realized, and to show that Sri Ramakrishna comes to this world to show us light, to take us to the light. That's what Sri Ramakrishna's role. And Divine Mother, after having all this realization, one person comes, Nyangta. He had barely had some cloth in the loin cloth in his body. And he comes to Sri Ramakrishna and asks, sees Sri Ramakrishna, face beaming with God realization, cheerful ever, and seemed the Totapuri, the person who came, was the highest God realized person from the non-dual perspective, from Advaita perspective. He sees Sri Ramakrishna walking in the temple and comes near him and says, do you want to learn Vedanta? I don't know, why did they ask? And Sri Ramakrishna says, I don't know anything. What to learn and what not to learn. I don't know anything. Let me ask my mother what she wants, what she instructs. Fully surrendered to the will of mother. And she went straight to the temple and asked the Divine Mother, Mother Kali, and came back beaming with joy and said, yes, mother told me that she had brought you so that I learn Vedanta from you. So I am ready to learn Vedanta. And then Totapuri, the teacher's name, who had God realization, long history of practice for many years of sadhana, intense sadhana. Then he realized the non-dual Brahman, the identification of oneself with the ultimate reality. And then he starts instructing Sri Ramakrishna in the teachings of the Vedanta and says, God is non-dual. God is beyond any form, beyond any idea, beyond any causation. Time, he is beyond time, space and causation. And he started instructing and said, to understand the truth of identity with Brahman, you have to renounce everything, all relationship, and your relationship and your attachment with the body. Even the body identification will not work. And then the mind will merge in the ultimate reality of your true self, that Totapuri said. And then Sri Ramakrishna takes sannyasa at the night, and then he says, meditate on Brahman. And then Sri Ramakrishna starts meditating on non-dual Brahman. And he finds, then he said to the teacher, I can't meditate. My Divine Mother comes with form, whom I love so much, who is the reality beyond all this reality for me so far. She is the real form, she comes in the form, and I cannot give her up. I cannot leave her, that form of God, so sweet, so dear to me. Totapuri said, no, you have to go beyond form to understand Brahman, who is non-dual, non-dual, formless, ultimate, unchangeable, immortal, uncreated, basis of the whole universe, that Brahman you have to realize. Then he shows some technique, and Sri Ramakrishna realizes in that non-dual identity with the Brahman. His awareness, his ego merges into the reality, what is called Brahman. And he was there, and for 3 days and 3 nights, immersed in deepest samadhi, oblivious of identification with the body, no idea of the body, no idea of anything of ego, and he was totally immersed in the highest samadhi called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Teacher was very happy, extremely happy. He was very surprised also. He himself had tried to reach that state. He tried 30 years, 40 years of sadhana from very young age. He tried that. He attained the perfection in that sadhana. And he sees whom he is instructing in 3 days of in 3 days of attempt, just after sannyasa, he merges into that non-dual Brahman, where one transcends all this world of Maya. He was very happy, surprised, and he was very satisfied to find such an able person in the world. Totapuri used to live not more than 3 days at one place, as a roaming sannyasi. He had come to Tirthayatra and pilgrimage and that. But here with Sri Ramakrishna, they started conversing. He was so charmed. Now he is the living Dakshineswar. How many days he lived? He lived here for full 11 months in Dakshineswar, just to have the company of Sri Ramakrishna, from whom he started learning. The teacher became student, student became teacher. What did he learn from Sri Ramakrishna? He learned that when we are in the domain of Mahamaya or Shakti, we have to accept the Shakti. Brahman is real. Same Brahman is real when we have the identity with the body. That Maya is also same Brahman real as this creation manifested. It may not be ultimate reality, but till we are aware of this world, we are aware of our body, then Maya is real, Shakti is real, Mother Kali is real. So that he learned from Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna taught him many things. One day Totapuri was sitting under the tree with a fire, holy fire lit up, and meditating on the Brahman. And that time one person was asking for some burning charcoal to lit his tobacco. And from that holy fire, that person came, didn't understand, people were sitting quiet, Sri Ramakrishna one place, Totapuri another place, meditating, quiet, serene, calm. And he came, he didn't know anything, and just took the charcoal, burning charcoal, just to light his tobacco, light his pipe. Totapuri became so furiated, so angry, he took his big iron tongue and started running after that person. What are you doing? You are using this holy fire to burn, to light your charcoal for your tobacco. So, and Sri Ramakrishna, he was also sitting there. And then he laughed out loud. And he said, then Totapuri said, why are you laughing? He took the holy fire from this for some mundane work. It is for the meditation. We are thinking of Brahman, and he did that. Sri Ramakrishna said, just now you taught me, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All this is Brahman. All this is nothing but Brahman. Everything is untrue and Brahman alone is true. And now you are angry with someone doing something in the world of Maya. So he said he laughed for that. Realization was there, but deviation came. So that was Sri Ramakrishna's non-duality, practicing non-duality in everything. So he was ready to forgive himself. He had forgiven so many people who committed ill treatment to him, because he understands everything is Brahman. Everything is the self manifesting as other person, other being, other living being. That was the epitome that Sri Ramakrishna had reached of Advaita sadhana. Let us talk something about Advaita, then we'll go to we'll go to Sri Ramakrishna's example of how we call Sri Ramakrishna as the highest manifestation of the practice of Advaita. According to Advaita philosophy, the ultimate reality is eternal, impersonal, absolute, called Brahman. Brahman, seen through Maya or ignorance, appears as Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat or creation. When that ultimate reality is seen through time, space, and causation, and then we call there is God who created this universe, and there is God who created this all. There are the living beings in this world, and that God is the ultimate controller of this world, He is the guide of this world, He is the light of this world, and we all different beings travel to, the goal is to travel towards God. That is the ultimate blessedness that we can reach. So the world seems to be divided into Jiva, individual soul, and the Supreme Being, Atma and Paramatma. This all Brahman, the being seen as Atma and Paramatma, when we see through the glass of Maya. Maya comes, and there comes the variety. There was non-dual Advaita, and Brahman comes in the middle, and this non-dual thing become many. It is like kaleidoscope. Have you seen the kaleidoscope that people used to roll when you were a child? There are small beads of glass, and that glass little move, there seems to be seen so many varieties of arrangement of glass. This Maya is like that kaleidoscope. The one without a second, that blissful reality seems like variety. That is Maya. And what is Maya? Now the Advaita brought out Maya. So if Brahman alone is the reality, from where the Maya comes? So Maya, it says, is very difficult to explain, but it is a fact. Because of Maya, we do not realize our identity with Brahman. Because of Maya, we see so many varieties. Because of Maya, we feel separate, ourselves separate from others, from this world. Because of this separation from others, we have attraction and repulsion. We have like and dislike. This all because of seeing duality. Maya creates duality in non-duality. That is the Maya's power. So Maya, and so that's why Maya is very inexplicable thing. It is real, we experience it, and ultimately it goes away. When you are in superconscious state, you are in a realized state, Maya vanishes. So it is then unreal. So it is real sometimes, it is unreal at other times, and you cannot say it is both also. It is very inexpressible. Swami Vivekananda said, Maya is nothing but it is a statement of fact of our experience in this world. Whatever we experience is Maya. This joy, happiness, sadness, fear, all this is Maya. That is the statement, the fact in the worldly experience is all Maya. And if the Maya continues until we merge in non-dual reality into that Brahman. Until then all is Maya. So Maya is not very insignificant thing. Maya is not something that we can avoid immediately. Maya is not something that is all sadness. It is not illusion. It is not something that doesn't exist. It is there until we experience, we go beyond Maya. Maya is there. That Maya is also called Shakti. It is the power of this universe. It's the Mahamaya. Maya from the standpoint of Shruti or Upanishads or the scripture, it is negligible something. That you need to go beyond Maya. Maya is just there and it creates little problem and it creates the universe and it can be overcome. How does Maya create universe? It says, the example they give is, there is a rope, universe is there on the basis. Because of Maya's presence, your understanding of rope is covered. Maya does two things. One is, it has two powers. It covers, it hides the reality, and it projects something unreal on it. First you don't see the reality, and then you see something else in place of reality. And these both come together. hide the reality, project something. This Avarani Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti. The hiding power and then projecting power of Maya. What did it hide? It hid the snake. It hid the rope. And what it projected? In place of rope, you see snake. So first rope was hidden, then snake was projected. The snake is compared to this creation, rope is compared to the world, the rope is compared to the Brahman, Brahman is reality. In that Brahman now you see this world, this universe. The ultimate, what is there is only rope is there. There is no snake at all. But snake is seen by the inscrutable power of Brahman. That power is in Brahman itself. And that inscrutable power of Brahman, this whole creation comes. The coming of snake out of rope, the seeing of snake out of rope is called, creation is called Vivarta. The manifestation of snake from the rope is called Vivarta. This whole creation, the whole universe with its living beings, we see is the Vivarta on Brahman. This the creation just appears, that it seems, and we all feel that. So it is just appearance. The Shruti says it is just appearance, it is negligible, you should try to go beyond that. But it's not easy to practice. But just there is a method, you should practice that. And don't be in ignorance. Try to have the knowledge of the truth. If you dwell in ignorance, you will suffer. If you do not know the truth, you will suffer. Ignorance brings bondage, ignorance brings suffering. When there is knowledge, then there is freedom. So be free and be of your own nature, which is bliss. When you are ignorant, you are suffering. So, Upanishad Shruti says it is negligible. From the standpoint of logic, it is inexplicable. Very difficult to define this Maya. Inexplicable thing, this Maya, whether it is real or unreal. Vinnapya, vinnapya, uvayatmikano. That's how Shankara describes. Sannapya, sannapya, uvayatmikano. It is neither different nor same nor both. It is neither truth, reality, nor unreality, nor both. It is not ultimate reality, but for experience everything is real. You touch, you feel, you see, you hear, everything in this world you do. So for practical thing it is real. But ultimate, one day it vanishes. When you understand the truth, it vanishes. It doesn't vanish when we die though. Maya is there. We go to heaven, we get another body. This is all Maya is there. Heaven is also Maya. Hell is also Maya. Another birth is also Maya. Maya doesn't leave unless we realize the Advaita. Where until and unless we become one with the reality, Maya is always with us. So, though Upanishad says it is negligible, but for us who are in deep ignorance, it is there. It is reality. So, it's so difficult to get rid of Maya, you see, though Upanishad will say negligible, but it is logically inexplicable. From the empirical standpoint, it is real. That we experience, that is real. That is what the Maya is. So the concept of Maya comes, the truth, the reality comes, that's all Advaita. And what is the role of God in Advaita? Who is God? Is there God or not? Yes, definitely. When we are in the domain of Maya, when we are still under the law of time, space and causation, then we are still waking and dreaming and sleeping, only 3 stages of awareness, then there is God. What is God? From the transcendental standpoint, He is Sat-Chit Ananda. Ultimate God is Sat-Chit Ananda. His existence, His consciousness, His bliss absolute. So that is Brahman. That is God. No change. It is eternal, it is impersonal, it is infinite. That is the idea of God. From the standpoint of transcendental. But from empirical standpoint, from this Vyavaharika, how is God? God is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. He is present everywhere. He is all powerful. He is all knowing. Sarvagya. He is Sarvagya. He is Sarvavyapi. All that is God. God's idea is that. So God, When there is creation, we accept the creation. We accept myself as an individual soul. Then soul, when there is soul, there is God who has the destiny of soul connected with that. God is our source and God is our goal. So God is there in Advaita Vedanta also. We accept God. There is nothing that God is denied. Ultimately, there is no separation between what you call God and what you call your soul. This is all one. But until you realize that there is difference, there is the world in front of you, you have to deal with the world. But if you do with the realization of Advaita, your dealing with the world will be different. Your reaction to the world's action upon you will be different. You will be in a different spiritual world. That's what Advaita says. Then Vedanta says, what are the methods of realization? It says you have to Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi, Sattva, Sampatti and Mumukshutta. You have Viveka, always try to discern and discern what is real and what is unreal. So that's called Viveka. Trying to know that the whole world we see is only for the time being. It's all the time being, it is there, otherwise everything is created, it will be destroyed. So it is not real, that type of discernment. And after understanding that world is ever changing, nothing in the world is real, this body is not real, my thoughts are not real, not permanent, nothing is permanent in the world. Relationships are not permanent, nothing is permanent in the world. That is called discernment. What is, if not permanent, then why should I be attached to that? It will go and it will go away. Why should I be unhappy when something goes away from me? So, because it was supposed to be that is all discernment. After discernment comes Vairagya. Then you are not attached to the temporary things. That is Vairagya. Gives great peace of mind. You understand the nature of the world. Your child is growing, you are not attached to the child. Your spouse are there, you are not attached, you love each other. Everything is there, not attached, because everything will be separated. You discern, you have Viveka, that one day one will die first. So you are not attached to the thing. You are ready for everything that the world, this life will bring changes. Life in Maya is always changing, always changing. That is the Maya, is everything changing, Brahman, nothing changing. And that very Brahman, unchanging reality looks like this changing Maya. What a grand, this powerful thing is Maya. Sri Krishna says, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratya. Upanishad says it is easy, negligible, you can overcome. Sri Krishna says, no, it is not so easy. Duratya, it is very difficult to overcome because it is my Maya. It is Daivi, there is divine power in Maya. It is difficult to overcome. How to overcome, Lord? Mameva e prapadyante. If you take refuge in me, Maya metam tarantite, then you will overcome Maya. You will go across the Maya. You will be established in the bliss of Brahman. Be in the world, and yet you become aware of the truth. You become established in non-duality. That is, Sri Krishna says, Mameva e prapadyante. Resign to me, surrender to me, love me, serve for me, see me in all beings, see me everywhere, because I am Sarva Vyapi, I am Vishnu, I am all pervading. If we do not come to open that eye of awareness, seeing me in all, then you are under the very dark, very strong catch hold of Maya, where you will definitely suffer. If you can perceive me everywhere, then you are closer to me. Light is coming to you, then you will live in a bliss. You are close to the understanding of true reality. So, Mameva prapadyante, surrender to me. That is what Sri Krishna says. Then you can overcome this Maya. After Vairagya, then comes Samadhi, Sattva, Sampatti. You will be very self-controlled, the Sama, Dhamma, their mind and senses are self-controlled. They won't go according to their wish. They want to do something, and every time that Viveka comes, Samadhi, Sattva, Sampatti is practiced with Viveka. That is very foundation of spiritual life. Always seeing what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is pleasant. In the Kathopanishad it is said, in front of every person comes pleasant and good. Those who have viveka, who are dhira buddhi, who are intelligent, they will choose what is good. Those who are of manda buddhi, preyo mando yoga kshemad vrinite, they choose what is pleasant, what is nice looking, enjoyable, and then they suffer. Enjoyment of senses brings suffering, brings bondage, and that's how it happens. So samadhi satka sampatti, samadama uparati titiksha, bear the difficulties in the world, don't be shaken by that. Titiksha, samadama uparati titiksha, shraddha and samadhana. Have firm faith in yourself, firm faith in God, firm faith in your relation to God. Sri Ramakrishna said to him, if you know three things, you have known everything. Who am I? Who are you? And what is our relationship? Sri Ramakrishna, the epitome of Advaita, the individual, non-dual Brahman, seen as the person. And who are you? Same Advaita, same being, identical with Sri Ramakrishna, with Brahman. What is our relationship? I am one with you. So if you understand these three, you have attained the goal. That's why it is said, Shraddha and Samadhana, then you get established in Brahman, non-dual Brahman. Then, all with that comes a tremendous desire for liberation. That's what is, we want to be freed from ignorance. And this coming and going of cycle of birth and death, and somebody says something, you become sad, you lose something, you become so worried, and always worried about the uncertainty, what will happen, whether we will be there or not, treating others as something. You are always worried for how the people will behave with you, what will happen after that, my job will be there, what will be my health when I am 60 years old, 80 years old. Always worried. Let the things come when they come. Before the bridge come, you start crossing the bridge. Always this uncertainty, because you don't have desire for the knowledge, for the truth, for the mumukshutta you don't have. So all that has to come. What Advaita can provide us? Advaita is a great harmonizer. It just makes everything acceptable to you. So if we are established in Advaita, your non-duality with everyone, non-duality with reality, then you don't mind anyone, you don't reject anyone, you are happy with everyone, because everyone is yourself. Advaita, if you are established in that, you can practice unity in diversity. So many varieties you see, people, things, everything. But you find underlying unity, as Sri Krishna says, Sutre Mani Ganaiva. So like that happens when you stand in Advaita. This whole universe and different forms are making a huge garland. And this like the flowers and this like the beads, that they are set in a thread, bead of pearls. So the thread is God, that is unity. And this looking variety externally, all are united in the self. So there you can practice unity in diversity. You will feel oneness with all. So all our defect in dealing with the people, liking and disliking, having difference of treating people differently according to the language, culture, or any color, or anything, that will go. Whole humanity will seem like your own being. Every human being will be yours. So where is the racism then comes? All that will go, all we become our own self. You will treat other person as you treat yourself. Love thy neighbor as yourself. Neighbor is not said what neighbor he is or she is, which color, coming from which country, having what background, what which ethnicity she or he has. Nothing is said. All neighbor you treat, love thy neighbor as thyself. You love everyone as yourself. Without Advaita realization, it is difficult to practice. Only when we are established in Advaita, then we can practice that. But this external equality that we try to practice equal with all, treating everything with equality, has to be practiced with internal unity. I know everything is one. I am one with all. Then I can treat everyone with equality. Advaita forms wonderful basis of morality and ethics. Why shouldn't I ill-behave others? Because that is myself. When I ill-treat others, I am ill-treating myself. When I love others, I love myself. So everyone is my being. It is the very basis of ethics and morality can be explained by Advaita. So Advaita is wonderful concept of this thing. Sri Ramakrishna practiced Advaita, as I said. Then he practiced so many other religions. He practiced Islam, he practiced Christianity, and he realized their goals, what is there to be seen. He had the vision of Jesus, he had the vision of church, and all those things he had the realization. After all that, then he was established in the, what you call, that Bhavamukha. Divine Mother said, you have realized, now you be in Bhavamukha. Bhavamukha is at the threshold. You remain at the threshold. Threshold of what? Between the divinity and the worldly person. Between the understanding of being merging in God and being with the people in the world. Being with the devotees. You be at those places. Movement. Sri Ramakrishna was a great mover. He was a great traveler from God to the world, from world to the God, and trying to catch people and giving them the awareness of God. That was Sri Ramakrishna's Bhavamukha. Beautifully written by Swami Saradanandaji what this Bhavamukha is. Bhavamukha also is trying to understand, because he was in Bhavamukha, he could, what he spoke sometimes in ecstasy, and it all related so much deep thoughts and understanding people could have. Also, because he was in Bhavamukha, he could understand the person coming, what is his ideal, what is his bhava, and he or she is explained and instructed according to that. Sri Ramakrishna was not a monotonous teacher. He was a versatile teacher. Whoever come with whatever background and whatever ideal, he could give that, supplement that, enrich that with that type of following. He didn't want everyone to follow only Advaita. For a devotee who comes, he knows that devotee is coming. He is a devotee of Krishna, another devotee of Rama, another devotee of Kali, and he gives the instruction according to that and gives them the impetus and inspiration to progress on that line. That is the Bhavamukha. Someone comes with Advaitic philosophy. One Christian came and he said, to Christian, he said, you are the Christ incarnated. When Vaishnava comes, he says, you are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I can feel you are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Another comes, oh, he is the incarnation. Mother always dwells inside you. Divine Mother expresses through you. Like that, Sri Ramakrishna was seen as the fulfillment of all their ideals, because he was that, because he was in Bhavamukha. Divine Mother said that. Let me read from Swami Saradananda's divine play what Bhavamukha is. When the I consciousness of the Master vanished altogether, he remained in oneness with the unqualified being of the Divine Mother, beyond the limits of this all-pervading I. And with the vanishing of this ubiquitous I, vanished also the last vestige of the infinite waves of ideas in the I waves, which go by the name of the universe. Again, when a little of I consciousness manifested itself in him, he saw both the Saguna immense I and all the ideas in it, united with the Nirguna aspect of the Divine Mother. In other words, as soon as he attained the Nirguna state, that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the existence of the difference in itself in that one without a second vanished from the Master's consciousness. And when he was conscious of the Saguna, immense I-ness, he felt that that which was then Shakti was verily that Brahman. Saguna was indeed that which Nirguna was. Prakriti, the material cause of the universe, was really that which Purusha or pure consciousness was. The snake that was motionless was then moving. That is, that which was Nirguna in its own nature was really Saguna in sport. After he had the full direct vision of the nature of the Divine Mother in the combined aspects of Nirguna and Saguna, the Master got the command, remain in Bhava Mukha. That is, do not remain as the Nirguna being by the complete merging of I-ness, but live your life and do good to people, living in constant and full direct knowledge of the fact that you are none other than that limitless I, from which all kinds of ideas in the universe spring, and that your desires and actions are verily its desires and actions. Thus, to have the direct experience and conviction or the feeling in all respects, at all times, in all states, that I am that immense I, that ripe I, is the meaning of remaining in Bhavamukha. When one reaches the state of Bhavamukha, all the ideas, such as I am the son of so-and-so, I am the father of so-and-so, I am a Brahmin, I am a Sudra, and so on, are completely washed off from the mind, and no sign of them is left. And one always feels that one is that immense I, pervading the vast, inconceivable universe. The Master, therefore, always taught us, my children, all the I's, such as I am the son of so-and-so, I am the father of so-and-so, I am a Brahmin, I am a Sudra, I am a Pandit, I am rich, and so on are unripe eyes. They bring about bondage. Give up these and think, I am his devotee, I am his son, and he means God's, and I am a part of him. Keep this mood firm in your mind. Or he would say, tie the non-dual knowledge, Advaita Jnana, in the hem of your cloth and then do whatever you like. That was Sri Ramakrishna's practical Advaita Vedanta. Tie the knowledge of Advaita in your hem and do whatever you like. Always be aware that you are inseparable from oneness. You are one with this universe. You are one with Brahman, one with reality. The whole universe, though it may look of so many varieties of things, but it is in reality one, good and bad, holy and unholy, all they merge in that oneness. Always remember this and then deal with the world accordingly, not forgetting oneness with the world. You are one, this whole world is one, and you are one with this world. Don't forget that. That was Sri Ramakrishna's understanding of Advaita and his teaching of Advaita. Even you have not realized Advaita, you have not attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi, try to intellectually be convinced of the non-duality of reality and your identity with that non-dual reality. Swami Vivekananda wanted to establish a center where true Advaita is practiced. No worship is done, no celebration, no kirtan, nothing there. Only people will practice this Chatush Sadhana, Viveka Vairagya, Samadhi Sakya Sampatti, Mumukshutta, and try to practice the Advaita Sadhana, non-duality with the reality, with this manifested reality, with unmanifested reality, transcendental reality. So, empirical reality and transcendental, that he wanted. But one brahmachari was there, and that he established, then Mayavati was established. The brahmachari was there, sadhus were there, and they were all initiated. Sri Ramakrishna was there. Each one brahmachari had their brought a photo of Sri Ramakrishna in his room, and he used to put some flower there. Swami Vivekananda said, I don't want this center to be dualistic worship here. Why did he bring Sri Ramakrishna's photo? You should not worship Sri Ramakrishna. You should try to meditate your oneness with the ultimate reality. Don't think Sri Ramakrishna in the body. If you want to say Brahman, Sri Ramakrishna as Brahman, ultimate reality, Sri Ramakrishna is good. But making him with a separate, formed, personal God, that is not to be practiced here. That brahmachari was little unhappy because he was worshipping Ishta. It had been told during initiation, you must have your connection with the Ishta. He is your ultimate friend, eternal companion. I always will guide and he will evolve you in spiritual life. So he complained to Holy Mother. Swamiji, not allowing me to worship Sri Ramakrishna, who is my Ishta, thought Holy Mother will support him against Swami Vivekananda. And came the answer from Holy Mother that Naren is right. Sri Ramakrishna is Advaita. And you are all followers of Advaita philosophy. So Sri Ramakrishna is Advaita. She didn't say Sri Ramakrishna is the follower of Advaita. Sri Ramakrishna is non-duality. He is not the follower of non-dual Vedanta. He is where everything merges, become one. Sri Ramakrishna is the merging of all varieties, differences, and from him comes all bliss and joy and peace and purity. That is the name of Sri Ramakrishna. There, everything can go there with all our shortcomings, all our impurities, all different thoughts. Just we can go and merge in Sri Ramakrishna in our awareness. We can think of Sri Ramakrishna. When we come out, we'll be all purified, all our impurities of thoughts gone. That is the power of Sri Ramakrishna. Why so? Because he is Advaita. Like the story Sri Ramakrishna said, there was a person who was dyeing the clothes of different colors. So whatever people say, he used to dip in the pot and say, I want red cloth. He will dip in the same pot with the same solution. Bring out the cloth, it is red. Another says, I want blue. He say, oh, blue. He dips in the cloth and comes out blue. Whatever they want, the color, dipping in the same solution, different colors come. Another person was seeing all this and he comes with a cloth. Sir, can you make my cloth of the color that solution is? I want the original color, not according to my choice. That is Advaita. When you are established in Advaita, you are friendly with everyone. You can give everything. So Sri Ramakrishna comes, all people of different thoughts, different ideals of spirituality, different spiritual practices, and all they find their place there, their home there, their guide there in Sri Ramakrishna. Why? Because Sri Ramakrishna was Advaita. Only in Advaita it is possible. In Dvaita we are branded. We are Bhakta of Kali, I am Bhakta of Shiva, I am Bhakta of Jesus. In Advaita you are one with all. That is the epitome of Advaita that Sri Ramakrishna had reached. Sri Ramakrishna is also considered harmony of religion. That harmony, real harmony, can come from the being established in Advaita, being manifested in Advaita. The best manifestation of Advaita, that is called, when is the best example of anything, it's called epitome, the ultimate. So he taught harmony of religions. Through Sri Ramakrishna, if you go, there is no quarrel in religions. All religions are true. All religions lead to the God we may call by different names. You may call Allah and Ishvara and Brahman and Father in heaven or Jehovah. It is one God. The ways, the religions are the different paths and the goal is one. Harmony of religions. You go through Sri Ramakrishna and you reach harmony of religions. No quarrel among co-religionists. Means all religions are co-religionists. Not only for a Hindu is co-religionist. But anyone that believes in God is co-religionist. I am a Muslim, you are a Hindu. We are all brethren in the path of our spirituality to realize God. That harmony of religions we can do through Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna also brought harmony of philosophies. Advaita, Vishishtadvaita and Dvaita. So much fight among them. Which is superior philosophy? Advaita. And I said, no, Vishishtadvaita. When the God is ultimate, whole, infinite, and Jiva is small spark of that reality. Sri Ramakrishna said, no, all they are same. They are the paths leading to the ultimate reality, and one person evolves from Dvaita to Vishishtadvaita, Advaita. That is the path of evolution in the progress of spirituality. There is no conflict among them. All are great. You can practice whatever suits to you. If Advaita suits you, practice Advaita. If Dvaita suits you, practice Dvaita. We all are going to the ultimate reality, that ultimate Brahman we will reach in time. But let us go, let us start moving whatever suits you. There is no conflict in different philosophies. Also, Sri Ramakrishna taught about harmony of yoga. That 4 yogas, not that one person practices one yoga, another person different. You are bhakta, or different. I am jnani, I am superior. Nothing like that. All yogas are to be practiced in harmony. So there is all leading to the same goal. Each yoga helps another yoga. Bhakti yoga helps in performing jnana yoga helps in performing karma yoga in raja yoga. All yogas are interlinked, and in one human being has the capacity to practice all yoga, because there are all 4 faculties of working, action and devotion and thinking and meditation, all those to be practiced. So there is harmony of yoga. Different ways to God are all harmonized, or they are perfect. There is no distinct and difference. You need not fight among them. Then different ideas of God is harmonized in Sri Ramakrishna. Like God, different ideas of personal God or impersonal God. What do you believe? Fine, impersonal God is also right, personal God is also right. God with form, that is perfect. God without form, formless God, that is perfect. You don't have to fight on these things, what idea of God is. Just worship your God, be with God. You believe in God with form, fine, do that. I believe in God without form, practice that. Enjoy your association with God. Whatever you think about God, you will be led to the direct. Whatever is right, whether God is with form or without form, when you reach God, God will teach you. You don't have to, and you are not treading in the wrong way. Whatever path you take, ultimately, if God is personal and you are trying impersonal, God will show you. If God is impersonal and you are practicing personal God, God will show you. In fact, God exists in so many ways. He expresses Himself. Personal, impersonal are just aspects of God that human mind can perceive, and both are true. There is the harmony of different ideas about God, and there is harmony of different kinds of realization, like Nirvikalpa Samadhi of yoga, ecstasis of divine love, and all different ideas of practices of jnana. That's fine. Everything there is harmony. All lead to the same ideas, and nothing is wrong. Or whatever suits you, practice that. Different harmony of different kinds of realization. They will lead you to all realizations are very high experiences. Practice your own path and try to practice all different yogas and reach the truth. That is the thing. Harmony between different sects. That also Sri Ramakrishna taught. What happened in one religion, there are different sects. Now there is quarrel between different sects. The worshipper of Vishnu quarrels with the worshipper of Shiva. Sri Ramakrishna said, no, that is not right. Shiva and Vishnu are the manifestation of one God. Why should you quarrel? He likes the form of Shiva, that let him meditate. You like form of Vishnu, you worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, another worships Mother Kali. That's all fine. There is all one God you worship in different form. He practiced that. Always, this all are because he was established in Advaita. Then harmony between secular life and spiritual life. What you do throughout the day and what you pray and worship. That should be harmonized. They are not distinct and separated. That has to be harmonized. Sri Ramakrishna taught that Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. What about being with the people, helping others? Is that the duality or non-duality? Is the truth is non-dual? What about that? So Sri Ramakrishna said, you should love God, you should love fellow human beings and serve your fellow human beings. That is the expression of love. Highest expression of love is the service. So the fulfillment of knowledge of God is through knowledge. and the fulfillment of life is through knowledge, that they say. And service of fellow human beings, that is very important. Sri Ramakrishna said, from that standpoint, not compassion to the human beings, but service to human beings as worship of God. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. All are Shiva, Advaita. Advaita in practice. That is Sri Ramakrishna saying. You practice Advaita by serving, giving loving serving to your fellow human beings. That is what Sri Ramakrishna's being established and expressing Advaita would bring this wonderful teaching for practice of our modern age, which we need. So much differentiated in different ways. You see so many uncertainty in the world, in relationship. But if we could bring Advaita in our life, we could find oneness everywhere. All the ills of society will be just vanished without anything that is done. Just we need to practice the oneness of existence and practice of Advaita. How do we live in this world? So that what Advaita shows. See God in everything and serve them. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Advaita also brings, it says, brings cheerfulness. And what Advaita does is, it brings us the time when we can stand the uncertainties of life. Life is so much uncertain that we see now, so difficult to find what will happen to us, particularly when we are so much worried for uncertainty, disease and deaths and all that. What will happen to me? If we are established in Advaita, it gives us solace in our life, and it gives us strength. As the non-dual self, I do not die. I am one with Brahman, unchangeable, I am ever that. Conviction of that Advaita gives us so much strength that nothing can make us fearful, not disease, not death, nothing can make us fearful if we are established in the Advaita. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. Tie the knowledge of Advaita in your corner of your hem and do whatever you like. Deal in the world. What to do? Whatever you like means you don't do any bad to the people. You love and serve with that Advaitic knowledge. And don't be afraid for your future in this uncertain world. It may happen anything to your body, but your soul is intact. It is one with reality. It has never been transformed. It appears as if you have been confined to this body and mind, but you are not this finite being. You are in reality that infinite being which will never change. Your being cannot be changed. It appears that. Have that knowledge and awareness of Advaita and then be established in the strength and glory of your own Atman. That is what Sri Ramakrishna's being the epitome of Advaita, his example of Advaita, living Advaita, serving all the time. How much he served the people, how much he was with the people who suffered in the world. There were so many good people, so many not so good people, but everyone he accepted and helped them to grow spiritually. Sri Ramakrishna, in his physical body he did. He does so more powerfully now when he has shed his physical body. He's become more approachable, he's more reachable now to us through our mind, through his teachings that we get from the books of his life, divine life, or the gospel or other books. And Sri Ramakrishna comes directly into our heart. We don't have to rush to Dakshineshwar or Kamarpukur to see Sri Ramakrishna or to Belur Math. We can find Sri Ramakrishna within our heart with all the glory, with all the Advaita knowledge where we find everything there, and Sri Ramakrishna will bless us. We'll become stronger in the sight of uncertainty, future so difficult to guess, and so much fearful of life and death, disease and health. With Sri Ramakrishna, we become so powerful, strong, head high, nothing matters. I am the self, aham brahmasmi, I am Atma Brahma. The four great vakyas that Vedanta asks you to practice. I am Atma Brahma, aham brahmasmi. I am that infinite Brahman What is there that can make any harm to me? Nothing can make me harm, nothing can make me full of disease, nothing can make me sick, nothing can kill me, because I am that glorious Atman. And what is the world? Sarvam khalu idam Brahman. I am Brahman, and that Brahman and this whole world is also Brahman. We are in that oneness of existence. With that strength, we become very strong and fearless. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna can guide us to reach there. Just we need to take shelter in him. Mame vaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Take refuge in me and go beyond Maya and reach the knowledge of Brahman and be in the bliss. Remove all your fear and be strong, and all your suffering gone. You always remain in the bliss of the knowledge of Brahman. Thank you very much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Mahamai Ki Jai. Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Buddha Ki Jai. Jai Isha Musha Ki Jai. Sarvastaratu Durgani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu. Sarvasad Buddhimapnotu. Sarvatra Nandatu. Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be freed from dangers. May all realize what is good. May all be actuated by noble thoughts. May all rejoice everywhere. Oh, peace, peace, peace be at us all.